So this is level 9 of the Japanese Candlesticks Trading Mastery Program. Welcome back. So as we all know, there is universality in Japanese candlesticks trading, which means the candlesticks can be applied to any market in the world, whether it is stocks, commodities, forex, even interest rates, as we will see in this particular level. And as always, before we begin any level, let us give some gratitude to the person who actually started this whole candlesticks thing, Mr. Steve Nissen, who is my mentor, and who was the first one to introduce the Japanese candlesticks to the Western world back in 1989. So he published a couple of books. One was in 1991, which was called The Japanese Candlesticks Charting Techniques. And I think the next book, which is Beyond Candlesticks, came in 1995. So it took 4 years for the next book to come. But those books are goldmine. So you have to read those 2 books. And as Steve Nissen says, candles do not provide price targets. So what he's saying here is that when you see a candle pattern, that doesn't mean that you have to take that trade. You have to take confirmations from Western indicators and things like support, resistance, box ranges. Those are the things that will give you price targets. Candles on a standalone basis do not give you price targets. Candles give you primarily reversal signals. There are also continuation signals, but primarily candlesticks are used for reversal trades. So I recommend that you read both of these books. This book is the most important. If you don't read this book, that is fine. If you read it, great. More power to you. I have read both of these books multiple times, at least 3-4 times I have read each book. So very, very valuable resources. Everything that you need to know about candlesticks charting is there here. Anyways, coming back to our level 9 program. This is our first chart. In this section, we will look at American stocks. So this is a daily chart of Apple. This is our first chart. Let us look at the 7 questions in this chart. And in the next video, we will look at the answers. So question number 1 is, which are the 2 patterns that this candle is completing? So we are looking at this red candle. And you have to tell me which are the 2 patterns that this candle is completing. One pattern is very obvious, but I won't say it here. The next part, the second name for this candle with the pattern that it is completing is not very obvious. So we will look at what is that. Question number 2 is, would you buy on the close of this candle? Why? So we are looking at this long green candle. Would you buy on the close of that candle? If yes, why? If no, then why? Think about it before you answer the question. Look at the whole market context before you answer this question. And one more thing, this is the first time I think I'm using the green and the red candles till level 8. I have used the black and the white candles. White was bullish, black was bearish. Here the green is bullish and the red is bearish. A lot of people use colorful charts. One of my students also asked me about the color of these candles. I said it really doesn't matter as long as you understand which ones are the bullish candles and which ones are the bearish candles. Number 3, which one of these is a shooting star and why? So we are looking at this candle and we are looking at this candle. Okay. So you have to tell me out of these 2, which one is a shooting star, which one is not. And you have to explain why you think so. One hint I would like to give you here is some of the questions that I will be asking are trick questions as well. So you have to really think before you answer these questions. Answer these questions to yourself and then check with my video where I explain all these things. So which pattern does this candle complete and where would you expect the next candle to close? So we are looking at this candle now, this white candle. What pattern is it completing? And once you identify the pattern, you have to tell me what do you expect the next candle to do? So that's a hint for you there. Number 5, which one of these two candles satisfies our criteria for a long white or green real body? So this candle and this candle, you have to tell me which one of these two satisfies the criteria for a long white real or long white or green real body, which means you need to know what the criteria is, okay? Number 6, which pattern does this candle complete and why? So we are looking at this particular small candle. And the last question, you have a look at this candle. You can call this candle by 2 different names. What are those names? What does this candle signify? So coming to the answers, which are the 2 patterns that this candle is completing? So the market is going up here. Very obvious thing is, first it's a bearish engulfing pattern, and the second is it's completing a variation of a evening star. The close of this candle is below the midpoint of this prior green real body. The reason why I call it a variation of an evening star is because ideally for an evening star, this second candle should gap up from the close of the prior green or white real body. Now here in this case, it's completing a bear harami. So that is the reason why I call it a variation of an evening star. This candle should have ideally been here for it to be a perfect evening star. So a variation of an evening star and a bearish engulfing pattern. Second question, would you buy on the close of this candle? Why? So this candle is completing a bullish engulfing pattern, a perfect bullish engulfing pattern because the prior candle real body is very small. But I would not buy on this candle because you have a look at this. There is a falling window here. So falling window becomes what? Resistance. So you are directly buying into resistance. So that is the reason why I would not buy on that candle. Number 3, which one of these is a shooting star? Why? This is a trick question. See, both of these candles are coming in a downtrend. A shooting star comes after a uptrend. So none of these 2 candles, this one and this one, none of these 2 candles is a shooting star. Now you might argue that Rohit, the price went from here to here. But remember one thing, a shooting star is a candle which should come at the top of the market, not near the bottom of the market. If I dissect this chart into two area, this is the top of the market. This is the bottom area of the market, right? So the price is coming down, the market is just consolidating, and there's hardly any uptrend. Just 2-3 candles does not constitute an uptrend. So the market is just consolidating. Maybe the shorts are being covered, the bears are booking their profits. So none of these 2 candles are a shooting star. Which pattern does this candle complete? Well, the market is going up from here. And if you look at these 2 candles, if those 2 candles were at the bottom of the market, you would call it a bullish engulfing pattern. But since it is coming after an uptrend, you call it a last engulfing top. And the moment you see a last engulfing top, what do you expect? You expect the next candle, this candle, to close below the close of the prior candle close, which means this candle should close below the close of this green candle. When that happens, then it is bearish. So the last engulfing top is bearish. As you can see here, this candle was not able to confirm the bearish implication of the last engulfing top. Number 5, which one of these 2 candles satisfies our criteria for a long white green real body? I would say this candle comes close. What is the criteria for a long green real body? The criteria is it should open near the low and close near the high. In this case, because of this upper shadow, it doesn't satisfy that criteria. Number 6, which pattern does this candle complete and why? So if you look at this candle, if you look at these 2 candles, it's completing a bear harami pattern. And ideally for a bear harami pattern, this real body should be 25 or 20 to 25% less than the height of the prior candle real body. When that happens, it's a perfect bear harami. Okay? Number 7, you can call this candle by 2 different names. Of course, it's a high wave candle. A high wave candle is where you have a long upper shadow, long lower shadow. So it's an indecision candle. It signifies indecision. Another name you can call it by is a spinning top because of the small real body. Okay, before we move on to the next chart, one clarification I wanted to give you. In the previous video, I said that this candle should be 20 to 25% less than the prior candle for it to be a bear harami. Actually, the correct statement would be the height of this small real body should be around 20 to 25% of the height of this real body. So if we divide this candle into 4 parts, so let's say this, and this. So these 3 lines have divided this candle into 4 different parts. So if this real body is around this height, like this, so if it is around 20 to 25% of the height of the prior real body, only then it is called as a harami. Ideally, that is a harami. So I wanted to correct that error. I think in the previous video I said that this candle should be 25% less. No, that is not the case. I am talking about the height. It should be 25 to 20% of the prior green candle. Anyways, coming to our second chart. Now, previous one was a daily chart. This is a weekly chart of Microsoft. So the first question is, what is this candle confirming? So we are looking at this black candle. What is it confirming? Second question, what might have the rally stop? Why might have the rally stopped in this area? So you are looking at this area here. Why did the rally stop in this area? So you have to look at the chart and that will give you some clues. Which pattern does this candle complete and why? So we are looking at this candle. Number 4, would you hesitate to call this a shooting star? Why? So this candle, which patterns established support are these tall shadows confirming? So you look at these tall shadows. So which patterns established support are these tall shadows confirming? So you have to look at the left-hand side of the chart. Number 6, why would you not be surprised with the 3 tall upper shadows here? So these shadows you see, why wouldn't you be surprised to see those shadows? And number 7, would you take a short position on the completion of this falling window? Why? So the moment this candle closes, would you take a short position? And you have to explain why. So the first question is, what is this candle confirming? So this red candle, well, if you look at these 2 candles prior to the red candle, that is completing a last engulfing top pattern. So since the close of this red candle is below the close of the prior green candle, so this candle is confirming the bearish implication of the last engulfing top. Okay? If these 2 candles had come after a downtrend, that is called as a bullish engulfing pattern. But since it is coming after an uptrend, it's called as a last engulfing top. And the moment you see this pattern, you have to see whether the next candle closes below the close of the prior green candle. If that happens, then the bearish implication is confirmed. And you see what happened to the price after that confirmation. Okay? Second question, why might have the rally stopped in this area? So you see here there is a falling window. So there is a resistance area here, which is why the rally stopped here and the price went down. A window is a very strong resistance. A falling window is a very strong resistance. Which pattern does this candle complete and why? So if you look at this candle, if you look at these three candles, that's a morning star, right? Another name for this candle would be, since it has hardly any upper shadow or lower shadow, this candle is also called as a shaven top, shaven bottom candle. Another thing that this candle is completing is, it is completing a long white real body or a long green real body pattern. That is a single candle pattern. So it is actually completing three different patterns. Okay. Number 4, would you hesitate to call this a shooting star? Why? The answer is yes. Of course, it's a shooting star because it's coming after a prolonged uptrend. However, I would hesitate to call it a shooting star because if you see, it's a weekly chart. And if you see the price on this candle is almost near the close of this shooting star, right? Almost close. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. For 9 weeks, the price has gone flat, which means what? It's a range-bound market here. So a shooting star should ideally come after a uptrend. Here it's coming out in a range-bound market. So that is why I am hesitating to treat it as a proper shooting star. But if you look in general, if you look at the price action from here, of course that's a shooting star. And of course the price went down after the shooting star appeared. But that hesitation will always be there. If I wanted to pull the trigger here, I would definitely hesitate. I would not take full position. Number 5, which patterns established support are these tall shadows confirming? So if you look at these two candles, that's a variation of a piercing pattern, right? And by now you should know why I'm calling it as a variation. And the low of the piercing pattern becomes a support, right? These tall shadows, they are all confirming the support created by this variation of a piercing pattern. Why would you not be surprised with the 3 tall upper shadows here? So obviously you have a falling window here, which is a very strong resistance. And these 3 tall upper shadows are confirming the bearish implication of that falling window. So none of these candles is able to close or even cross the falling window. So I would not be surprised to see these long upper shadows here. Number 7, would you take a short position on the completion of this falling window? Why? So this falling window completes when this candle closes. So the question is, would you go short on the close of the candle? The answer is no, because see, there is a support here, right? So if you go short here, you're going short directly into support, which is not a good idea. And by the way, these 3 candles are confirming that support. So it was not a great idea to take a short position on the completion of this falling window. Next, chart number 3. This is a daily chart of Google. Question number 1. Which of these 2 candles is a hammer and why? So this is one candle and this is second candle. Which one of these 2 is a hammer? Question 2. Which of these 2 candles is a shooting star and why? So we are looking at this candle and this candle. Question 3. Which of these 2 candles is an inverted hammer and why? So we are looking at this candle and this candle. Question 4. Which pattern does this candle fail to complete? So this red candle. Why is that candle still very bearish? Okay. Question 5. What signal is this candle flashing and why? So we are looking at this small green candle. What signal is it flashing and why? Question 6. Why would it be foolish to go long on this hammer? So if you choose to go long on this hammer, why would it be foolish? Question 7. Which 2 patterns is this candle completing? This particular candle. Would you go long on that candle? So question number 1, which one of these two candles is a hammer and why? Obviously this is a hammer because it is coming after a downtrend. And this is not a hammer because it's coming after a uptrend. See, the price has moved from here to here. So that is why it is not a hammer. Which one of these two candles is a shooting star and why? Well, both candles are a shooting star because they are satisfying all the criteria that you need for a shooting star. Number 3, which one of these two candles is an inverted hammer and why? This is an inverted hammer. This is not an inverted hammer because you see that lower shadow. Ideally for an inverted hammer, the closing should be near the low of the candle. In this case, that is not true. Both these candles are coming after a downtrend, which we need for an inverted hammer, but the close of this candle is much more near the low of the candle. And look at the lower shadow height compared to the height of the upper shadow. And here if you see, I think the lower shadow is around 40 to 50% of the upper shadow. So that is the reason why this is not an inverted hammer. This is an inverted hammer. Which pattern does this candle fail to complete? Well, if this candle would have closed below the midpoint of this, like if this candle would have closed here, it would have completed a dark cloud cover. And if it would have closed here, somewhere here, it would have completed a bearish engulfing pattern. But that closing has been weak. Why is that candle still very bearish? Well, here if you see, if you look at the shooting star, we know that the high of the shooting star becomes resistance. So if you draw this line here, resistance line, you see that the red candle, it opens above the resistance line but closes below it. So it fails to hold that resistance, fails to break that resistance line. So anytime you see a candle which is opening above resistance but closing below it, that's a very powerful bearish sign. I would go short on that candle, even though it is not completing a dark cloud cover or a bearish engulfing pattern. I would still go short with a small position simply because of the fact that it opens above the resistance but fails to hold there and closes back below the resistance. This candle indicates that the bulls were not able to keep the price above that resistance level. So it's a failure of the bulls, which is a victory for the bears. And you see what happens to the price next. That's why that candle is still very bearish. That is the reason why I asked you that question. Number 5, what signal is this candle flashing and why? So if you look at this candle, that's an inverted hammer, right? The price is coming down. What do you expect the next candle to do after the inverted hammer? After the inverted hammer, you need the next candle to close above the close of the inverted hammer. If that happens, then the bullish implication of the inverted hammer is confirmed. So this candle is confirming the bullish implication since its close is above the close of the inverted hammer. So it's flashing a bullish signal. It's giving us confirmation for the inverted hammer, just like you need confirmation for a hanging man. You need the next candle after the hanging man to close below the close of the hanging man. So it's flashing a buy signal. Okay? It's confirming the bullish implication of the inverted hammer. Number 6, why would it be foolish to go long on this hammer? Well, this hammer is also completing a falling window, right? If you see this candle and this here, that's a falling window, right? What does falling window become? Falling window becomes resistance. So why would you go long when you are just near resistance? So it would be foolish to go long on that hammer, although the price went up. But we don't know what is going to happen next, right? The price could have failed to break that resistance and would have crashed down, right? So that is why I would not go long on that hammer because of that falling window. A falling window is a very strong resistance. Number 7, which two patterns is this candle completing? Well, first it is completing this rising window because the close of the candle completes that rising window. Second, if you look at these two candles, 1 and 2, these two candles, that's a variation of a bullish engulfing pattern, right? Ideally, you would expect the opening to be somewhere here. Then you want this green candle to be like this, and it should close like this so that the green candle engulfs the prior red candle, and that becomes a bullish engulfing pattern. But instead of opening here, it opens here and closes even further above. So that's a variation of a bullish engulfing pattern. It is also called as a bull counterattack. I think for a bull counterattack, the opening should be at the close of the... I made a mistake. It's not a bull counterattack. It's a bull separating line. Okay? Bull counterattack is something different. Bull counterattack is when the green candle is like this. Okay? So the green candle closes here at the close of this, exactly at the close of this red candle. That's a bull counterattack. This is a bull separating line, and ideally for a bull separating line, you need this candle to open here, and then you want that green candle like this. That's a bull separating line. If the opening is somewhere here and it goes up like this, then that's called a bull sash pattern. Okay? Chart number 4. This is a weekly chart of Amazon. Question 1. Although this is not a hammer, why is this candle still very bullish? So we are looking at this candle. Number 2. Although this is a green candle, can we still call it a hanging man? So this particular green candle. Question 3. Why do you think there is a support area here? So you see a support area developing here. Why do you think that support area is there? Number 4. Does this candle complete a 3 black crow pattern, and why? So this is the candle we are looking at. Number 5. Does this candle complete a 3 white soldier pattern, and why? So we are looking at this green candle. Number 6. What is the name of this candle, this particular candle? Number 7. Which 2 patterns does this candle complete, and does it imply that the market will go down? So we are looking at this candle. Okay? It is completing 2 different patterns. So which are those 2 different patterns? Okay. Although this is not a hammer, why is this candle still very bullish? So try to understand this answer very carefully, okay? So if you look at this uptrend, the uptrend stops at this particular candle, right? So what I do is I draw a line at the high of this candle. So if I draw a line like this, okay, I continue to draw this line like this. So here, the rally ends here, and this candle confirms that resistance line, okay? So now this line becomes a multi-tested resistance line because there are 2 touch points here. That multi-tested resistance is broken on this green candle, right? So now the same line becomes potential support. This candle, which is not a hammer, is confirming that line. So it confirms that this potential support has become support. So the same line goes from multi-tested resistance to potential support to support. So since this candle is confirming that this line has become support, that is the reason why it is still very bullish. And by now you should know why this is not a hammer. Okay? Although this is a green candle, can we still call it a hanging man? So if you look at this candle, of course it's a hanging man. The color does not matter. Why do you think there is a support area here? In this area, Obviously, if we continue to draw that line, okay, if we continue to draw that line, so that line has become support. That is the reason why you see some support area developing here. So basically we are looking at COP, change of polarity. Does this candle complete a 3 black crow pattern and why? The answer is no, because for a 3 black crow pattern, first it should come after a uptrend, which is okay. And the three consecutive red candles should be either equal in height or increasing in height. But in this case, the second candle height of the real body is smaller than the height of the prior red real body. Okay? So if you look at the bodies, the height of the real bodies, they should either be equal or increasing. Moreover, another criteria is the opening of the second candle should be within the real body of the first candle, and the opening of the third candle should be within the body of the second candle. Even that is not happening here. So it's not a 3 black crow. Next, does this candle complete a 3 white soldier pattern and why? The answer is no, because again, for a 3 white soldier pattern, the real body heights should either be equal or increasing. In this case, it is decreasing. Number 6, what is the name of this candle? Now, since this candle doesn't have any shadows, it's called as a shaven top, shaven bottom candle. Number 7, which two patterns does this candle complete? So, of course, this completes a hanging man because it is coming after an uptrend. And another pattern it is completing is the bear harami. If you look at these two candles, that's a bear harami. Does it imply that the market will go down? The answer is no. See, for a hanging man, you need confirmation from the next candle to confirm its bearish implication. But on a standalone basis, it does not imply that the market will go down. And if you look at the bear harami, it's a trend reversal pattern. Trend reversal does not mean that the price will go down. Trend reversal simply means that the prior trend is likely to come to an end. Okay? That's all it means. It doesn't mean that the price will go down. Any trend reversal signal, whether it is a hammer, engulfing pattern or anything, when it occurs, it doesn't mean that the price will suddenly reverse. All it means is that the prior trend is likely to come to an end. Next, this is chart number 5. This is Berkshire B stock. This is a daily time frame chart. Why B? Because they have two classes of shares, Class A and Class B. By the way, Berkshire Hathaway is a company owned by Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, two of the greatest investors in the world, value investors in the world. Anyways, coming back to our questions. This candle is closing at a very important level. What is that level? So we are looking at this red candle. Number 2, is this a gravestone doji? Why? So this candle. Number 3, why would you pay extra attention to this window? So of course there is a falling window here, but why would you pay extra attention to that window? Number 4, can you spot a box range on this chart with a multi-tested support and resistance? Number 5, what does this candle fail to confirm? This particular small candle. Number 6, spot the change of polarity on this chart. Number 7, what would you ideally expect to happen after the end of this box range? So there is a box range here. What would you ideally expect to happen after the box range ends? So question 1 is, this candle is closing at a very important level. What is that level? When you look at the left-hand side of the chart, you see this rising window here, right? So if I draw this, if I extend this line, I don't have a ruler here, but if I extend this line, you will find that this line and this closing is almost exactly the same. I have seen that on the chart. So it's not a perfect straight line that I have drawn here, but that's a very key level because this candle exactly closes at the lower line of the rising window, which is a very strong support. So that's the level, the rising window's support. Question 2, is this a gravestone doji? No, because there is a small lower shadow here. If there was no lower shadow, then this is a gravestone doji. Number 3, why would you pay extra attention to this window? So of course you have a falling window here. However, if you look at these two candles, this and these two candles, there is a window here. There is a rising window here, correct? Like this. So if I extend this line, you will see that this candle is not only breaking that window, but it's breaking that window by creating a falling window. So one window is breaking the prior window. That is why we would pay very extra attention to this falling window. It's a very powerful bearish sign. Although the market went up after that, but assuming that we don't know what happened next, the falling window is very, very important here. And I would suspect the reason why the market went up from here is because of this rising window. The candle closes at that rising window, which is very powerful. Number 4, can you spot a box range on this chart with the multi-tested support and resistance? Well, if you draw a line at the high of this candle, that's a multi-tested resistance. And if I draw a line here at the low of this candle, okay, that's a multi-tested support. So multi-tested resistance, multi-tested support, and that becomes your box range. Next, what does this candle fail to confirm? So this candle, if you look at these two candles, that's a last engulfing top, okay? If those two candles had appeared after a downtrend, then that is called as a bullish engulfing pattern. So the name of this pattern is the last engulfing top, and this candle is failing to confirm the bearish implication of the last engulfing top. The last engulfing top, remember, it's a bearish pattern. This candle did not close below the close of the prior green candle. That is why it is failing to confirm the bearish implication of the last engulfing top. Can you spot the change of polarity on this chart? It's very easy. You look at this rising window. If I continue to draw this line, okay, it gets tested here, it tested here, so multi-tested support. Continue. You draw a line like this. So old support becomes new resistance. That's the change of polarity. What would you ideally expect to happen after the end of a box range? So remember the concept I taught you. If the price is coming down, then goes the box range, and the price goes down. Okay, that's the ideal movement. Or if the price is going up, then you see a box range, and then the price continues to go up. So this trend resembles the prior trend before the box range. So in this case, the price is coming down, it goes into a box range. So ideally, we would expect the price to go down after the box range ends.